Welcome to Starbound, where every star tells a story. Today, humans will show that our competitive spirit can drive us to victory in any situation, even life-threatening ones. Let's get into the story. The message crackled over the comms, a desperate plea for help from a corner of the galaxy humanity barely knew. This is Krill Prime, under attack by an unknown force. Our defenses are failing. We need immediate assistance. The transmission ended abruptly, cut off by a burst of static. In the vast control room of the Terran Alliance, the signal was received with a mix of curiosity and indifference. The Krill were a minor race, insectoids known for their pacifism and isolation. Their plight was barely a blip on humanity's radar. Interesting, Commander Marcus Aurelius mused, stroking his neatly trimmed beard. The Krill, always so peaceful. Now they're begging for help. He glanced at the tactical display where a holographic map of the galaxy glowed. The Krill home system was a tiny speck in the vast expanse, far from any major human settlements. "What do you propose, Commander?" asked Lieutenant Anya Petrova, her voice crisp and professional. Aurelius smiled, a glint in his eyes. "A rescue mission, of course, but not just any rescue mission. We'll turn it into a competition." Petrova raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "A competition, sir?" "Precisely," Aurelius said. "We'll open it up to all comers, independent contractors, privateers, anyone with the guts and the firepower to take on this unknown enemy. The first to reach Krill Prime and save the most civilians wins a hefty reward." Petrova's eyes widened. "Sir, with all due respect, isn't that a bit unethical?" Aurelius chuckled. "Unethical, perhaps, but it's also damn efficient. We get the Krill rescued, and we get to see who the best of the best really are. It's a win-win." The news of the Krill distress call and the Terran Alliance's unorthodox response spread like wildfire throughout human space. The galaxy was abuzz with excitement as adventurers, mercenaries, and glory seekers of all stripes flocked to the starting line. Among them was Captain Jack "Ripper" O'Reilly, a notorious rogue with a reputation for both ruthlessness and compassion. He commanded the Blackheart, a sleek, heavily modified corvette crewed by a motley band of misfits and outcasts. "Krill, huh?" Ripper said, leaning back in his battered captain's chair. "Never heard of him, but a distress call's a distress call, and a reward's a reward." His first mate, a grizzled cyborg named Sparks, grunted in agreement. "Aye, Captain. Let's show these fancy-pants Alliance boys how it's done." As the countdown to the race began, a motley fleet of ships assembled in the Terran Alliance starbase orbiting Earth. There were sleek military cruisers bristling with weapons, heavily armored freighters, converted into makeshift warships, and nimble corvettes darting between the larger vessels. The atmosphere was tense, a mix of anticipation and nervous energy. The crews of the competing ships eyed each other warily, sizing up their rivals. When the starting gun finally fired, a chaotic scramble ensued. Ships of all shapes and sizes blasted off, engines roaring, weapons primed. The race to Krill Prime had begun. Ripper, always one to defy convention, had a different plan. Instead of following the main fleet, he plotted a course through a nearby nebula, a dense cloud of gas and dust that would mask his ship's signature. "We'll take the scenic route," he said with a grin, as the Blackheart plunged into the swirling darkness. As the various human factions raced towards Krill Prime, the insectoid race braced for the worst. The Hive, a merciless swarm of bioengineered warriors, had descended upon their world like a plague. Their cities were in ruins, their defenses shattered, and their people were being herded into makeshift concentration camps. Queen Zelia, the aged ruler of the Krill, watched helplessly as her world burned. Her once vibrant cities were now smoldering craters. Her once peaceful subjects were now terrified refugees, fleeing the Hive's relentless advance. "We must hold on," she said to her advisors, her voice raspy with exhaustion. "Help is coming." Her advisors exchanged worried glances. They had sent out a distress call, but who would answer? And would they arrive in time? Unbeknownst to the Krill, help was indeed on its way. But it was not the kind of help they had expected. The Hive, a relentless swarm of bioengineered warriors, relished the Krill's despair. They were masters of conquest, honed by eons of evolution and genetic manipulation. Their queen, a monstrous creature with a carapace shimmering with chitinous armor, surveyed the devastation with cold satisfaction. "The Krill are weak," she hissed, her mandibles clicking. "They will be assimilated." Her generals, grotesque monstrosities with razor-sharp claws and venomous stingers, echoed her sentiments. They had expected more of a fight from the Krill, but the insectoids had proven to be disappointingly docile. "Their technology is primitive," sneered one of the generals, a hulking brute with a carapace adorned with the skulls of its victims. "Their soldiers are cowardly." "Their queen is pathetic," added another, a spindly creature with multiple eyes and a barbed tail. The Hive Queen nodded in agreement. She had expected more of a challenge from this corner of the galaxy, but it seemed the Krill were ripe for the picking. As the Hive continued their ruthless advance, they were unaware of the storm that was gathering on the horizon. The human fleet, a chaotic jumble of warships, freighters, and private vessels, was closing in on Krill Prime. Leading the charge was the Blackheart, Ripper's sleek corvette. He had emerged from the nebula, his ship's sensors scanning the ravaged Krill homeworld. "Damn," he muttered, his eyes widening at the carnage. "Those bugs are getting their butts kicked." Sparks, his cyborg first mate, nodded grimly. "Aye, Captain. Looks like we got here just in time." Ripper grinned, his eyes gleaming with a mix of excitement and determination. "All right, boys and girls, let's show these Hive scum what humans are made of." The Blackheart accelerated, its engine screaming as it hurtled towards the Krill homeworld. Behind it, the rest of the human fleet followed, a motley armada of ships united by a common goal: to rescue the Krill and reap the rewards. The Hive, sensing the approaching fleet, prepared for battle. They launched swarms of fighters, their wings buzzing angrily as they intercepted the human ships. The first shots were fired, and the battle for Krill Prime erupted in a fury of laser blasts, missile strikes, and energy pulses. The Hive fighters were fast and agile, but they were no match for the human ship's superior firepower and advanced technology. The Blackheart, with its cutting-edge weaponry and Ripper's unorthodox tactics, quickly established itself as a formidable force. Ripper weaved through the Hive fighters, his ship's guns blazing. He targeted their weak points, crippling their engines and sending them spiraling out of control. "Eat this, you ugly bugs!" he shouted, as he unleashed a volley of missiles that exploded in a fiery inferno, obliterating a squadron of Hive fighters. The rest of the human fleet followed suit, each ship fighting with its own unique style and ferocity. Some relied on brute force, hammering the Hive with overwhelming firepower. Others employed stealth and cunning, striking from the shadows and disabling key Hive assets. The Hive, accustomed to methodical warfare, were bewildered by the humans' chaotic tactics. They had never encountered a species that fought with such reckless abandon and disregard for their own lives. "These humans are insane," hissed one of the Hive generals as he watched a human pilot ram his ship into a Hive cruiser, causing a massive explosion that consumed both vessels. "They are like rabid animals," agreed another as he dodged a barrage of laser fire from a human frigate. The Hive Queen, watching the battle from her command center, was equally perplexed. The humans were a wild card, an unpredictable force that defied all logic and reason. But she was not afraid. The Hive had conquered countless worlds, faced countless foes. They would adapt. They would overcome. The battle raged on, the skies above Krill Prime ablaze with the fury of two clashing civilizations. The fate of the Krill and perhaps the entire galaxy hung in the balance. Amidst the chaos of the space battle, Ripper focused on the ground assault. The Blackheart scanners revealed the Krill concentration camps, sprawling structures guarded by swarms of Hive warriors. "Sparks!" Ripper barked. "Prep the landing party. We're going in." "Aye, Captain," Sparks replied, his mechanical limbs whirring as he assembled a team of hardened mercenaries. The Blackheart descended towards one of the camps, its guns blazing as it strafed the Hive defenses. Ripper, Sparks, and their team rappelled down from the ship, landing amidst a hail of enemy fire. They fought their way through the camp, their weapons spitting death as they cut down Hive warriors left and right. Ripper, with his twin pistols and cybernetic enhancements, was a whirlwind of destruction, mowing down enemies with brutal efficiency. Sparks, with his heavy machine gun and armored exoskeleton, provided covering fire, suppressing the Hive's attempts to regroup. The Krill prisoners, initially terrified by the humans' sudden appearance, quickly realized they were being rescued. They cheered as Ripper and his team blasted their way through the camp, liberating them from their captors. "Freedom!" one of the Krill cried out, his mandibles clicking excitedly. "Thank you, humans!" Another chimed in, his eyes filled with gratitude. Ripper, never one for sentimentality, simply grunted in response. Don't thank us yet. We're not done. He led his team deeper into the camp, towards the command center where the Hive overseers were holed up. The overseers, sensing the tide turning against them, prepared for a last stand. Ripper and his team breached the command center, guns blazing. A fierce firefight ensued, with laser blasts and energy pulses ricocheting off the walls. The overseers, despite their superior numbers, were no match for the humans' ferocity and skill. One by one they fell, their bodies twitching and spasming as their lifeblood seeped onto the floor. Ripper, his face splattered with gore, stood over the last remaining overseer, his pistol aimed at its head. The overseer, a monstrous creature with a carapace covered in spikes, trembled in fear. It clicked its mandibles pleadingly, but Ripper was unmoved. You've caused enough suffering, he said coldly. Now it's your turn. He pulled the trigger, ending the overseer's life with a single shot. The camp was liberated. The Krill prisoners, overjoyed at their newfound freedom, swarmed Ripper and his team, showering them with praise and gratitude. But Ripper, ever the pragmatist, was already thinking ahead. He knew this was just one camp, one small victory in a larger war. There were more Krill to rescue, more Hive to kill. Sparks, he said, turning to his first mate, let's get these bugs to safety. Then we'll find another camp. Sparks nodded, his mechanical eyes scanning the surrounding area. Aye, Captain. We'll give him a ride on the Blackheart. As the Blackheart lifted off, carrying its precious cargo of rescued Krill, Ripper couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. He may be a rogue, a mercenary, a killer, but he was also a human, and humans help those in need, even if it meant turning war into a sport. Word of the humans' arrival spread like a wildfire through the ranks of the Hive. The Krill's desperate plea had been answered, but not with the calculated strategic aid the Hive expected from advanced species. Instead, the humans fought with a chaotic, passionate fury that unnerved even the most seasoned Hive commanders. The Hive Queen, a being of pure intellect and cold strategy, found herself both fascinated and disturbed by the humans' tactics. They seemed to revel in the chaos, their ships darting through the battlefield like predators on a hunt, their soldiers fighting with a reckless abandon that bordered on suicidal. The humans' technology was not vastly superior to the Hive's, but their adaptability and unpredictability made them a formidable foe. They were quick to exploit weaknesses, utilizing unorthodox strategies and makeshift weaponry to devastating effect. The Hive, accustomed to methodical warfare, struggled to counter the humans' chaotic approach. On the ground, the Krill camps became a focal point for the conflict. The humans, driven by their self-imposed competition, prioritized the rescue of Krill civilians. They launched daring raids, infiltrating heavily fortified camps and liberating thousands of Krill. The Hive, valuing the Krill as a potential resource, fought fiercely to defend their captives. But the humans' relentless attacks, coupled with their disregard for casualties, proved too much for the Hive to withstand. One by one, the camps fell, the Krill fleeing to the safety of the human ships, while the Hive warriors were cut down in droves. The Krill, initially terrified of both the Hive and the humans, were awestruck by their rescuers' bravery and ferocity. They had never encountered a species that fought with such passion and disregard for their own safety. To the Krill, the humans were not just warriors, but heroes, saviors who had descended from the stars to deliver them from the Hive's clutches. The Hive Queen, however, saw the humans as a threat to her species' dominance. Their chaotic tactics, while effective in the short term, were ultimately unsustainable. The Hive, with their superior numbers and disciplined ranks, would eventually wear down the humans and reclaim their conquered territory. But for now, the Hive were on the back foot, their forces reeling from the humans' relentless onslaught. The Queen ordered a strategic retreat, consolidating her forces and preparing for a counterattack. She knew that the humans, driven by their lust for glory and competition, would not be satisfied with simply rescuing the Krill. They would pursue the Hive, eager to prove their superiority. And when they did, the Hive would be waiting, ready to unleash their full fury and reclaim what was rightfully theirs. Ripper's exploits in liberating Krill camps were not singular. Across the war-torn planet, other human factions were engaged in their own campaigns, each driven by their unique motivations and strategies. The Terran Alliance, despite initiating the competition, found themselves outmatched by the more agile and ruthless independent groups. Captain Anya Petrova, leading a squadron of Alliance cruisers, grew increasingly frustrated with their slow progress. They were bound by protocols and regulations, while the independent ships operated with a reckless abandon that, while effective, often resulted in unnecessary casualties. "We need to adapt," Petrova told her crew. "We can't let these freelancers take all the glory." She ordered her ships to split up, each vessel targeting a different Krill camp. They bypassed the standard infiltration procedures, opting for a more direct approach. The cruisers bombarded the Hive defenses, creating breaches for the Alliance Marines to storm through. The Marines, highly trained and disciplined, fought with a precision that contrasted sharply with the chaotic style of the independent mercenaries. They cleared out the camps methodically, minimizing Krill casualties and securing valuable intel on the Hive's movements. While Petrova and her squadron made headway, the independent groups continued their rampage across Krill Prime. The Blood Eagle gang, known for their brutality and bloodlust, relished the opportunity to slaughter Hive warriors. They turned the rescue missions into gruesome spectacles, broadcasting their exploits to the rest of the galaxy for fame and profit. The Silent Shadows, a clandestine group of assassins and saboteurs, operated in the shadows, disrupting the Hive's supply lines and sabotaging their communication networks. Their actions, while unnoticed by the public, were instrumental in weakening the Hive's infrastructure and hindering their ability to coordinate a counterattack. Meanwhile, Ripper and his crew on the Blackheart continued their relentless pursuit of the Hive. After depositing the rescued Krill on a nearby planet, they set course for a Hive command center, a massive structure bristling with weapons and defended by a legion of warriors. Ripper knew that this was a dangerous gamble, but the potential reward was too great to ignore. The Hive Queen was rumored to be residing within the command center, and capturing or killing her would guarantee victory in the competition. The Blackheart approached the command center under the cover of darkness, its engines muffled and its weapons powered down. Ripper and his team, disguised in captured Hive armor, infiltrated the facility through a ventilation shaft. They made their way through the labyrinthine corridors, silently taking out Hive patrols with knives and silenced pistols. The Hive, overconfident in their security, were caught off guard by the human intruders. Ripper and his team reached the central chamber, where the Hive Queen awaited. She was a monstrous creature, her carapace shimmering with an iridescent sheen, her mandibles dripping with venom. A tense standoff ensued, the air thick with anticipation. The fate of the competition, and perhaps the entire war, rested on the outcome of this encounter. The Hive Queen, a towering figure of chitin and malice, regarded Ripper with compound eyes that burned with an alien intelligence. Her mandibles clicked and hissed, a language of pheromones and subtle vibrations that Ripper's translator struggled to decipher. "Human," she rasped in a voice that echoed through the chamber. "You dare intrude upon my domain." Ripper, unfazed by the Queen's imposing presence, leveled his pistol at her head. "We're here to rescue the Krill," he said, his voice steady, "and to end your reign of terror." The Queen's mandibles clicked in amusement. "You believe you can defeat the Hive? You are but a single species, a fleeting spark in the vastness of the cosmos." "We're a spark that's about to ignite a bonfire," Ripper retorted. "And you're the kindling." He gestured to his team, who had fanned out, weapons trained on the Queen and her guards. The guards, towering monstrosities with razor-sharp claws and venomous stingers, tensed, ready to defend their Queen to the death. The Queen, however, raised a clawed hand, silencing her guards. "I will not fight you here," she said. "This is not the way of the Hive." Ripper lowered his pistol, surprised by the Queen's sudden change of heart. "What do you propose?" "A duel," the Queen said. "You and I, alone. The victor decides the fate of the Krill." Ripper's eyes narrowed. "A duel? You think you can beat me?" The Queen's mandibles clicked in a chilling laugh. "I know I can." She stepped forward, her massive form dwarfing Ripper. Her guards parted, allowing her to approach. Ripper, despite his initial surprise, was not one to back down from a challenge. "All right," he said, his voice hardening. "A duel it is." He holstered his pistol, drawing his vibroblade instead. The Queen, her claws extended, mirrored his movement. The two adversaries circled each other, their eyes locked in a silent battle of wills. The air crackled with tension as the human and the alien prepared to clash. The Queen struck first, lunging forward with blinding speed. Her claws slashed through the air, aiming for Ripper's throat. Ripper, his reflexes honed by years of combat, dodged the attack, rolling to the side and coming up in a crouch. He swung his vibroblade, the energy blade humming as it connected with the Queen's carapace. A shower of sparks flew as the blade glanced off the Queen's armor. Ripper, undeterred, pressed his attack, launching a series of lightning-fast strikes. The Queen, however, was more than a match for him. She parried his blows with ease, her claws deflecting his blade with uncanny precision. She countered with her own attacks, forcing Ripper to retreat. The two warriors danced around the chamber, a blur of motion as they traded blows. The Queen's strength and speed were overwhelming, but Ripper's agility and resourcefulness kept him in the fight. He dodged, weaved, and countered, his vibroblade flashing like a beacon of defiance. But the Queen was relentless, her attacks growing fiercer with each passing moment. Ripper, realizing he could not win a direct confrontation, changed tactics. He used his smaller size and agility to his advantage, darting around the Queen and striking at her exposed flanks. The Queen, frustrated by Ripper's evasiveness, roared in anger. She lashed out with her claws, tearing chunks of metal from the walls as she tried to corner him. Ripper, seeing an opportunity, leaped onto the Queen's back, his vibroblade plunging into the soft flesh beneath her carapace. The Queen shrieked in pain, her body convulsing as she tried to shake him off. Ripper clung on, his blade buried deep, his other hand searching for a vulnerable spot. He found it, a small gap in the Queen's armor near her neck. He drove his blade into the opening, severing a major artery. The Queen's movements slowed, her body trembling as she lost blood. She slumped to the ground, her eyes glazing over. Ripper, exhausted but victorious, pulled his blade from her corpse. He stood over the fallen Queen, his chest heaving as he caught his breath. The Hive guards, witnessing their Queen's demise, were overcome with despair. They lowered their weapons, their will to fight extinguished. Ripper, his voice hoarse, addressed the remaining Hive. "Your Queen is dead. The Hive is defeated. Surrender, and you will be spared." The Hive, their morale shattered, complied. They laid down their arms, their reign of terror over the Krill finally coming to an end. In the aftermath of the Hive Queen's demise, the galaxy reverberated with the echoes of humanity's triumph. The Krill, their civilization on the brink of annihilation, rejoiced in their unexpected salvation. Their cities, though scarred by the ravages of war, began to stir with renewed life as the insectoid race emerged from the shadow of the Hive's tyranny. The Krill, a species known for their artistic expression, poured their gratitude and admiration into their creations. Sculptures of human warriors adorned their public spaces, their features rendered with meticulous detail, capturing the intensity and determination that had so captivated the Krill. Epic poems were composed, recounting the tales of valor and sacrifice passed down from generation to generation, ensuring that the humans' heroism would never be forgotten. The Terran Alliance, initially skeptical of the competition's effectiveness, found themselves basking in the reflected glory of their citizens' achievements. The independent groups, once dismissed as reckless mercenaries, were now hailed as heroes, their exploits broadcast across the galaxy, inspiring a new generation of adventurers and explorers. The Alliance, recognizing the need to adapt to this new reality, began to reform their military doctrine, incorporating elements of the independent group's unorthodox tactics. They established training programs that emphasized adaptability, initiative, and unconventional thinking, producing a new breed of soldiers who were as comfortable with improvisation as they were with following orders. The Krill, eager to contribute to the galactic community, offered their scientific knowledge and technological expertise to the humans. Their understanding of bioengineering, honed over millennia of peaceful coexistence with their environment, proved invaluable in developing new medical treatments and enhancing agricultural practices. In turn, the humans shared their knowledge of interstellar travel and advanced weaponry, helping the Krill establish a defensive fleet capable of deterring future threats. This exchange of knowledge and resources fostered a deep bond between the two species, a testament to the power of cooperation and mutual respect. However, not all humans were content with the newfound peace. Some, addicted to the thrill of the competition and the lure of rewards, sought new conflicts to exploit. They formed mercenary bands, offering their services to the highest bidder. Their skills honed in the crucible of the Krill invasion, now turned towards more nefarious purposes. The Terran Alliance, wary of these rogue elements, established a task force dedicated to monitoring and regulating their activities. They knew that the human spirit, while capable of great good, could also be easily corrupted by greed and ambition. In the years that followed, the galaxy witnessed a resurgence of human exploration and expansion. Emboldened by their victory over the Hive, humanity ventured into uncharted territories, establishing colonies and trade routes, their influence spreading like a wave across the cosmos. The Krill, no longer isolated and vulnerable, became active participants in galactic affairs. Their diplomats, once hesitant and reserved, now spoke with confidence and authority, advocating for peace and cooperation. The Hive, though defeated, were not eradicated. They retreated to their own corner of the galaxy, licking their wounds and plotting their revenge. They studied the humans, analyzing their strengths and weaknesses, learning from their mistakes. They knew that one day they would return, their forces augmented and their tactics refined. The next encounter would not be a competition, but a war of annihilation, and humanity, ever vigilant, would be ready for them. As the dust settled on Krill Prime, a fragile peace emerged. The Hive, their forces depleted and their queen slain, retreated deeper into their territory, nursing their wounds and plotting their eventual return. The Krill, buoyed by the unexpected heroism of the humans, began the long process of rebuilding their shattered civilization. The human factions, their competitive urges satiated for the time being, returned to their respective corners of the galaxy, laden with spoils and tales of daring do. The Terran Alliance, having learned valuable lessons from the conflict, reevaluated their military strategies and initiated reforms aimed at fostering greater flexibility and adaptability. News of the humans' victory reverberated throughout the cosmos, reaching the ears of other sentient races. Some were awestruck by humanity's courage and tenacity, while others were wary of their unpredictable nature and thirst for competition. The Krill, however, remained eternally grateful to their saviors. They erected monuments to honor the fallen human warriors, their names etched in the alien script alongside Krill heroes. They opened their borders to human traders and diplomats, eager to forge lasting alliances with the species that had saved them from annihilation. Ripper and his crew, their fame reaching legendary proportions, found themselves showered with accolades and rewards. The Terran Alliance, recognizing their instrumental role in the conflict, offered them a pardon for their past transgressions and a lucrative contract to serve as a special operations unit. Ripper, ever the pragmatist, accepted the offer, but on his own terms. He demanded autonomy and the freedom to choose his own missions, refusing to be bound by the Alliance's bureaucratic red tape. The Alliance, desperate to retain the services of such a valuable asset, reluctantly agreed to his demands. The Blackheart and its crew continued their adventures, venturing into uncharted territories and facing new challenges. Their exploits became the stuff of legends, inspiring countless tales and holodramas. But even as the galaxy celebrated humanity's triumph, a shadow lingered on the horizon. The Hive, though defeated, were not destroyed. They lurked in the darkness, their hatred for humanity burning with an unquenchable fury. The next encounter, when it came, would not be a competition, but a war of extermination. The Hive would return, their forces augmented, their technology enhanced, their determination to wipe out humanity stronger than ever. But humanity, forever resilient and ever adaptable, would be ready for them. The lessons learned on Krill Prime would not be forgotten. The spirit of competition, while a double-edged sword, had forged a new generation of warriors ready to face any threat, no matter how daunting. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the inevitable clash between two indomitable forces. The outcome of this conflict would determine the fate of not just humanity, but of countless other species caught in the crossfire. And as the stars looked down upon this epic struggle, one thing was certain. The war between humanity and the Hive would be one for the ages, a tale of courage, sacrifice, and the unyielding will to survive.